Greetings, cozy knights. Lower your swords and rest by the fire. Tonight, we journey through the deepest unsolved mysteries of Skyrim. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're listening from tonight, and what games you want me to cover next. And subscribe if this helps you sleep. The Ethereum Forge's lost knowledge. In Arkenthams, players discover one of 4 Ethereum shards needed to access the ancient Dwemer Forge. 4 Dwemer city-states, Arkenthams, Raldeptar, Betharzel, and Mzulft, formed an alliance to mine and study this rare crystalline substance. But the forge can only be used once, crafting a single item before shutting down permanently. This limitation raises questions about the Dwemer's intentions. If Ethereum was so valuable it sparked civil wars between the cities, why create a forge that works only once? Some players theorize the single-use limitation wasn't original design, but damage sustained during the conflicts. The forge's mechanisms broken in ways that prevent repeated activation. Others suggest the Dwemer never intended multiple forgings, that each item required the entirety of available Ethereum, making the forge inherently limited. The most intriguing possibility is that the forge we discover isn't the only one, that each of the 4 cities built their own forge, and we've only found one of several that might still exist, hidden in ruins we haven't yet discovered or accessed. The locked room in Golden Glow Estate. Underneath Golden Glow Estate's main building sits a locked gate. Beyond it, players can glimpse a room containing furniture and items. But there's no key, no quest unlocks it. Console commands reveal it's an inaccessible cell, deliberately placed where players can see it, but never reach it. Why create this space? Some theories suggest it was meant for Cut Thieves Guild content, perhaps an alternate path or optional objective. Others propose it's where Aringoth was supposed to hide something valuable, content removed, before release. The most unsettling interpretation is that it's intentional frustration, placed there specifically to drive curious players mad. A deliberate mystery with no solution. The room's existence mocks completionists, suggesting that even in a game world, some doors remain permanently closed. The Pale Lady's Curse. In the Kilcreath ruins, the Pale Lady haunts a frozen cavern. She's not just a ghost, but something more substantial, more present. Her appearance triggers before you even enter her chamber, frost magic attacking from impossible angles. Players have noted she seems more self-aware than typical undead, her movements suggesting intelligence rather than mindless aggression. But who was she in life? The dungeon delving quest that leads you to her offers no backstory. Her name suggests a title rather than an identity. Some theorize she was a priestess who froze herself to achieve some form of preservation, the ritual going wrong and trapping her in undeath. Others suggest she was murdered and thrown into the frozen water, her rage at betrayal creating the powerful spirit that now guards the ruins. The architecture around her chamber suggests Nords built a shrine there specifically to contain her, implying she was powerful and dangerous enough to require eternal imprisonment rather than destruction. Blackreach's true purpose. Everyone knows Blackreach as a massive underground Dwemer city, but few question why it exists at all. The Dwemer built vertically, their architecture defying gravity. They had no need for subterranean farms or living spaces when they could construct towers reaching toward the sky. So why carve out this enormous cavern? The official explanation is they harvested resources and studied the former, but Blackreach is far too large for those purposes alone. The most compelling theory suggests Blackreach was a refuge, built in anticipation of some catastrophe the Dwemer foresaw. They knew something was coming, something that would make the surface uninhabitable, so they prepared this underground sanctuary. When Kagranak activated his tools and the Dwemer vanished, perhaps some of them were actually in Blackreach, protected from whatever transformation affected their surface-dwelling kin. Could there be Dwemer still down there, living in sections we never discovered, hidden behind walls that refused to open? The Augur of Dunlane's transformation. In the College of Winterhold, the Augur of Dunlane exists as pure magical energy, a swirling vortex of power that speaks and reasons but has no physical form. According to Tolfdir and Colette Marons, he was once a brilliant Breton student at the college, particularly gifted in restoration magic. He delved into magic in ways no one had seen before, but became too focused on acquiring power. An experiment went catastrophically wrong, causing him to lose his corporeal form entirely. His soul became fused with the magical energies flowing through the college, trapping him as a conscious being of pure energy. But many details remain unclear. What specific experiment was he conducting? Why was it unauthorized? Some players theorize he was attempting to replicate Kagranak's work with the Heart of Lorcan, trying to achieve a form of godhood or immortality. Others suggest his transformation might be connected to the Great Collapse that destroyed most of Winterhold, either as cause or effect of that catastrophe. The college keeps him sealed in a room beneath the midden, which could indicate either protection or imprisonment. His immense power is undeniable. He can see through lies, predict futures, and understand magic at levels that terrify even the Archmage. The most disturbing possibility is that he's fully conscious of what he lost, trapped in energy form, while retaining all his human desires and fears, unable to experience physical sensation ever again. His brilliant mind now an eternal prisoner of his own ambition. The Gaulder Amulet's original purpose. 3 brothers killed their father for an amulet that, when assembled, provides modest stat boosts. This seems anticlimactic for an artifact that caused fratricide and warranted powerful curses from Gaulder's wife. Players have long suspected the amulet's current effects are diminished, that its true power was either lost over time or intentionally sealed after the brothers' betrayal. Ancient Nordic texts mention Gaulder as an archmage of legendary ability, suggesting his amulet should grant incredible power, not just a few extra points to attributes. Some theorize the amulet was designed to amplify the wearer's magical ability exponentially, essentially creating a demigod. The brothers killed their father thinking they could share this power, not understanding that the amulet worked only for Gaulder himself, attuned to his specific essence. Their mother's curse further damaged it, ensuring that even reassembled, it would never function as originally intended. We were a broken shadow of what was once Skyrim's most powerful magical artifact. The dragon language's true origin. Dragons claim their language, the Thu'um, is the language of creation itself, words that shaped reality when Akatosh first conceived of time. But this raises questions. If it's the original language, why do only dragons and those they teach have access to it? Why doesn't all of Tamriel speak it? The answer might be that the Thu'um isn't a language in the traditional sense, but rather a form of imposed will. Dragons literally commanding reality to obey them. This would explain why each word of power must be meditated upon and understood, rather than simply memorized. You're not learning vocabulary but philosophy, understanding concepts so deeply that reality itself recognizes your authority. But here's the mystery. If dragons created this language, who taught them? Akatosh himself presumably doesn't need language to shape reality. He is time itself. Did dragons invent the Thum as a way to access powers they weren't naturally born with? Are they, in some sense, the first mortal practitioners of magic, creating a system to mimic divine power they envied? The former's betrayer. The snow elves became the former after fleeing underground and accepting the Dwemer's poisonous bargain. But who specifically made that decision? Ancient texts mention snow elf leaders negotiating with the Dwemer, but no names survive. This is suspicious. Important historical figures are usually remembered, especially if they made catastrophically poor decisions. The absence of names suggests deliberate erasure, someone or something ensuring that the snow elf who doomed his entire race to blindness and servitude would be forgotten. Some theorize this leader was assassinated by his own people once they realized what he'd done. His name struck from all records as punishment. Others suggest he was the first to transform and, in his anguish, destroyed every mention of his former self. The darkest theory proposes he didn't make a mistake at all. He was working with the Dwemer intentionally, a traitor who sold out his race for personal power or immortality, and the historical record was edited to hide this collaboration. The Ebony Blade's whispers. Mephalah's ebony blade grows stronger the more you betray and murder friends. It whispers encouragement as you kill people who trust you. But players have noticed something odd. The whispers sometimes predict things, mentioning events or people you haven't encountered yet. This shouldn't be possible if it's simply Mephalah speaking through the blade, unless the blade isn't just connected to Mephalah, but to her sphere of influence across all time, seeing every betrayal that has happened or will happen, making it less an artifact and more a window into the Daedric realm of lies and murder. Some players report hearing different whispers depending on who they've killed, suggesting the blade might be absorbing the souls of betrayed friends, using their voices to encourage further killing. The most unsettling aspect is how natural the whispers sound, not demonic or obviously evil, but reasonable, even kind, as if betrayal is the most logical course of action. This subtlety makes players question whether their decisions are their own, or if Mephalah is gradually rewriting their moral framework through constant psychological manipulation. The missing Atmaran homeland. The Nords came from Atmara, a frozen continent north of Tamriel. But by Skyrim's time, Atmara is completely lifeless, not just uninhabited, but biologically dead, frozen in supernatural winter that kills anything attempting to land there. What happened? Isgramon led expeditions back and forth, suggesting Atmora was habitable in his time. The change from livable homeland to frozen wasteland occurred within historical memory, yet no records explain it. Some theories propose the Nords themselves killed Atmora, draining it of life force through some ritual that powered their conquest of Skyrim. Others suggest Atmora was always dying, and the Nords were refugees fleeing inevitable death, rather than conquerors seeking expansion. The most chilling theory is that Atmora isn't dead, but sleeping. That something so powerful it could kill an entire continent is waiting beneath the ice, and the Nords fled not from environmental catastrophe, but from a threat they couldn't defeat, hoping distance would save them from whatever consumed their homeland. The Headless Horseman's origin. Every night in Skyrim, a spectral figure rides through the darkness. He has no head, yet he rides with purpose, galloping toward Hamvir's rest before vanishing into mist. No quest explains him. No book tells his story. Players have followed him for hours, watched him patrol the same routes, witnessed him disappear at dawn. But who was he in life? The game provides no definitive answer. Based on his warrior's armor and the graveyard he haunts, players have developed several theories. Some suggest he might be guarding the tomb at Hamvir's Rest, bound to eternal patrol after failing some ancient duty. Others propose he's searching for his missing head, cursed to ride until he's made whole again. A popular interpretation connects him to Ragnar the Red, the warrior mentioned in Nordic songs who was beheaded by a woman. The most unsettling possibility is that he's simply trapped, replaying his final ride over and over, a soul so traumatized by death that he can't stop moving even in the afterlife. The developers intentionally left no answers in the game files, no hidden notes, no quest hooks. He exists purely as atmosphere, an eternal mystery meant to haunt Skyrim's roads without explanation. Parthenax's long game. The ancient dragon atop the throat of the world claims to have overcome his violent nature through meditation and philosophy. He teaches the Greybeards, helps the Dragonborn, and speaks eloquently about the struggle to suppress domination instincts. But he's also immortal and has had thousands of years to plan. What if his peaceful persona is itself a form of domination, a slower, more subtle way of controlling outcomes? By positioning himself as a wise mentor, he influences events across millennia, shaping Skyrim's history while appearing to abstain from violence. When you choose to spare or kill him at the Blade's request, neither option reveals his true intentions. If he genuinely reformed, your mercy is justified. If he's manipulating you, your mercy plays into plans you can't comprehend. The genius of his potential deception is that it's unfalsifiable. Everything he does can be interpreted as either genuine redemption or elaborate manipulation, and your inability to know which is true makes you his puppet regardless. The Thalmor's endgame. The Aldmeri Dominion's goal appears to be political and military dominance, but internal documents suggest something more radical. They believe creation itself is a prison, that mortality is a curse inflicted by Lorcan, and their ultimate goal is unmake reality, returning everyone to the divine state they held before the world existed. This would mean literally ending existence, not through apocalypse, but through metaphysical unraveling, convincing reality it never should have been. The White Gold Concordat, the Talos ban, the Civil War in Skyrim, all of it serves this larger purpose. By weakening belief in Talos, they weaken the divine barrier separating Mundus from oblivion, making reality more fragile, easier to dismantle. But here's the mystery. Do all Thalmor know this is their goal, or only the leadership? Are rank and file justiciars working toward ending existence without realizing it? And most importantly, if they succeed, what happens to consciousness? Do souls return to the dreams leave, or does unmaking creation erase everyone who ever existed, killing them retroactively across all time? The Dragonborn soul structure. You absorb dragon souls throughout the game, dozens of them by the end. But where do they go? You're not a container mindlessly collecting power. Each dragon soul represents a complete consciousness, memories, personality, identity. When you absorb Mirmulnir, does his mind merge with yours? Do you remember his thoughts, his centuries of life? Players experience no such memories in gameplay, but the lore suggests dragon souls don't simply disappear. Some theories propose the Dragonborn's consciousness is becoming a gestalt entity, a fusion of all absorbed dragons, explaining why you grow more powerful, but also why you might struggle with morality. You're not one person anymore, but dozens of conflicting personalities fighting for dominance within a single body. This would explain dialogue options where the Dragonborn can be unnaturally cruel or aggressive. You're not making those choices. Absorbed dragon personalities are influencing your decisions. By game's end, how much of you remains versus the amalgamated consciousness of every dragon you've killed? The Sleeping Tree's origin. South of Whiterun stands a massive glowing tree with narcotic sap that Khajiit harvest for skooma production. The tree itself is alien, unlike any vegetation in Skyrim. A nearby book reveals it grew from seeds brought by a crashed ship, implying extraterrestrial origin. But this raises enormous questions. If space travel exists in the Elder Scrolls universe, where are the other travelers? Who built the ship? What were they doing in Skyrim's atmosphere? The tree has been growing for decades based on its size, suggesting the crash happened long ago. Yet no one has investigated. The book is written by a giant who befriended the visitor before they died, but giants aren't known for literacy, adding another mystery. Some theories suggest the tree is an invasion, that its narcotic properties are deliberately designed to weaken populations, preparing Tamriel for eventual conquest by whatever species sent the ship. Others propose it's a scout organism, gathering information through the sap-addicted drug users who consume pieces of it, transmitting data to distant observers about Tamriel's species and the vulnerabilities. The Soulcairn's creators. The Ideal Masters rule the Soulcairn, a dimension where trapped souls exist in eternal twilight. But who are the Ideal Masters? They claim to be ancient necromancers who transcended mortality by becoming pure will. But this explanation feels incomplete. Their power rivals Daedric princes, yet they're not counted among the Daedra. They exist outside conventional cosmology, occupying a space that shouldn't exist according to established metaphysics. Some theories suggest they predate the current Kalpa, that they're survivors from a previous cycle of reality who found a way to persist through the world's destruction and rebirth. Others propose they're not former mortals at all, but something else entirely, perhaps fragments, of a god that was destroyed, each ideal master a piece of shattered divinity trying to reassemble itself through accumulating mortal souls. The Soulcairn itself might be an attempt to recreate the complete god's consciousness, every trapped soul serving as a neuron in a vast cosmic brain that's slowly waking up. The Night Mother's true identity. The Dark Brotherhood worships the Night Mother, a corpse that speaks to listeners and directs assassinations. But who was she in life? The Brotherhood has conflicting origin stories, some claiming she was a Dunmer, others suggesting different races. What's consistent is that she killed her own children to prove devotion to Sithis, receiving immortality or undeath in return. But Sithis isn't a being that grants wishes. It's the void itself, the absence of existence. How can nothing reward anything? This suggests the Night Mother's power comes from elsewhere. Some theories propose she's not connected to Sithis at all, but to Mephala, the Daedric Prince of Murder and Lies, who manipulates the Brotherhood by pretending to be the voice of void. Other theories suggest the current Night Mother is just one in a line, that when a listener grows old, they become the new Night Mother, transferring consciousness into a prepared corpse, making the role institutional rather than individual. The darkest theory is that there is no consciousness in the corpse at all, that listeners hallucinate the Night Mother's voice, hearing their own murderous impulses projected onto a convenient vessel that absolves them of responsibility for their choices. Arniel Gain's disappearance. The college mage, attempting to replicate Kagranak's work on the heart of Lorcan, vanishes mid-experiment, presumed killed. But his soul doesn't end up in the soul cairn, and his body isn't found. He simply ceases to exist. Some players speculate he achieved what the Dwemer achieved, transformation into a different state of being. Perhaps he became part of Lorcan's skin, the divine body that supposedly forms Nirn itself. His consciousness diffused across the planet. Others suggest he was erased from reality entirely, written out of existence by cosmic forces that protect against mortals meddling with divine artifacts. The most intriguing theory is that he succeeded, but went somewhere players can't follow, perhaps merging with the Dwemer wherever they ended up, joining them in whatever state of existence they currently inhabit. His summonable shade might not be his actual soul, but an echo, a resonance left behind like a ghost, the universe remembering someone who no longer exists in any conventional sense. The secret of Blackreach's Crimson Nirn Root. Blackreach contains glowing red Nirn Root that exists nowhere else in Tamriel. Normal Nirn Root is rare. Crimson Nirn Root is unique to this location. But why? Nirn Root is already magical, already special. What additional property does the Crimson variety possess? The alchemist who requests samples is unhelpfully vague about their properties, and player testing reveals they function identically to surface Nirn Root in potion making. This suggests their true value isn't alchemical, but something else. Some theories propose Crimson Nirn Root grows only in the presence of soul gems, feeding off trapped consciousness, which would explain their location in Dwemer ruins, where soul gem usage was common. Others suggest they're the same species as surface Nirn Root, but adapted to Blackreach's unique environment over thousands of years, implying they were brought down deliberately when the cavern was first excavated. The most unsettling theory is that they're not plants at all, but crystallized memories of the Dwemer. That when the race vanished, fragments of their consciousness manifested as these glowing organisms, and when you harvest them, you're collecting pieces of Dwemer souls. The eyes of the Falmer. These precious gems are worth fortunes, but their origin is mysterious. They're described as former artifacts, but current Falmer don't create art or jewelry. They're degenerate, primitive creatures without culture. This means the eyes were created by snow elves before their transformation, making them thousands of years old. But why eyes specifically? What were they originally made for? Some theories suggest they were religious icons, representations of sight deliberately created before the snow elves accepted the poisonous deal that blinded them. A final memorial to what they were losing. Others propose they had practical magical functions, perhaps serving as focuses for illusion magic or scrying devices. The fact that Mercer Frey stole them suggests they're more than decorative. They might grant their possessor real power, perhaps literally seeing through deception or perceiving hidden truths. The most tragic theory is that they're not representations of eyes, but actual eyes, preserved through magic, taken from the last snow elf leaders who refused transformation and were executed by their own people for resisting the Dwemer's offer. The werewolf curse's true source. Hircine created lycanthropy as a gift, but the mechanism is never explained. How does a Daedric prince create a disease that transforms people into beasts? Normal diseases are biological. Lycanthropy is spiritual, affecting the soul itself, binding the afflicted to Hircine's realm after death. This suggests it's not a disease in any conventional sense, but a curse or contract, the transformation representing Hircine claiming partial ownership of your existence. But here's the mystery. Can it be broken completely? The companion's cure requires Glenmoril witch heads. But why do these witches have power over Hircine's curse? What's their connection to the Daedric Prince of the Hunt? Some theories suggest the witches worship Hircine, and the cure isn't breaking the curse but transferring it, freeing your soul by binding someone else's. Others propose the cure is temporary, that Hircine allows you to escape lycanthropy only because he finds the hunt more interesting when prey thinks it's free. The darkest interpretation is that once you've been a werewolf, you're permanently marked, and Hircine claims your soul regardless of whether you're cured. The transformation serving as eternal contract you can never break. Magnus and the Magna G's betrayal. The god Magnus abandoned creation, fleeing to Aetherius and leaving a sun-shaped hole in reality. His followers, the Magna G, followed, creating stars. But this is usually framed as cowardice or wisdom, depending on interpretation. What if it was neither? What if Magnus saw something in Mundus that horrified him so deeply he had no choice but to flee? The usual explanation is that he opposed Lorcan's plan to create mortality, but Magnus was the architect, the designer of the mortal plane. He knew what he was building. Something must have gone wrong mid-construction, some revelation or catastrophe that made continuing unbearable. Some theories propose Magnus discovered that Mundus was actually a prison, that Lorcan was trapping gods in mortality not to create beauty but to punish them, and Magnus fled rather than be imprisoned. Others suggest he saw the future, perceived how mortals would use creation, and decided the whole project was doomed, abandoning it like an architect leaving a building site when he realizes the foundation is fatally flawed. The Dragon Priest mask's missing ninth. 8 Dragon Priests ruled Skyrim during the Dragon Cult's height. Players can collect their masks, each granting unique powers. But in Labyrinthian, a 9th mask pedestal exists, empty, waiting for something called Connachric. When you place all 8 masks on their pedestals, a 9th appears, supposedly the ultimate mask. But who was Connachric? No tomb bears his name. No legend mentions him. The mask exists, but its owner has been completely erased from history. Some theories propose Connachric was the original leader of the Dragon Priests, his name and deeds deliberately forgotten after he betrayed the dragons or committed some unspeakable atrocity. Others suggest Connachric never existed as an individual, but represents the collective power of all Dragon Priests combined. The mask manifesting only when all 8 are reunited, serving as symbol of their unified authority. The most intriguing theory is that Connachric is waiting to be claimed by a future Dragon Priest, that the 9th mask exists outside time, and whoever earns the right to wear it will become Connachric retroactively, writing themselves into history that hasn't happened yet. Alduin's true defeat. You defeat Alduin in Sovngarde, and he dies, his soul not absorbed like other dragons. But is he truly dead? He's described as the World Eater, destined to end the current Kulpa and begin the next. By killing him prematurely, before the Kalpa's natural end, you might have broken the cycle of creation and destruction, trapping Tamriel in an existence that should have already concluded. Some theories suggest Alduin can't truly die because he's essential to reality's function, that his soul returned to Akatosh to await eventual rebirth. Others propose you didn't kill Alduin at all, but defeated a fragment of him, the ambitious part that wanted to rule rather than destroy, leaving the World Eater aspect dormant but intact. The most disturbing theory is that Alduin was trying to end the Kalpa on schedule, and by stopping him, you've condemned everyone to eventual worse fate. because the current world is past its expiration date, and refusing to let it end means watching it decay into something terrible rather than being cleanly destroyed and remade. The Mysterium Xerxes' hidden contents. Mehrunes Dagon's mythic book supposedly contains knowledge of Oblivion's nature and methods for opening portals. Players encounter it during the Mehrunes Razor quest, but its actual contents are never revealed. Why? What could be written that's so dangerous the game won't show it to players? Some theories suggest the book contains actual functional instructions for Daedric summoning, and displaying the text would allow players to attempt forbidden rituals. Others propose the book's contents change for each reader, showing them specifically what would tempt them most effectively towards serving Mehrunes Dagon. The most unsettling interpretation is that the book doesn't contain text at all, but is alive, a sentient artifact that communicates directly with readers' minds, bypassing language entirely to plant ideas that grow like invasive organisms, gradually converting readers into Dagon's servants without them realizing they're being changed. Not reading it might be the only safe option. The lunar lattice and Khajiit morphology. Khajiit are born into different forms, based on the moon's phases when they're born. This isn't genetic variation, but celestial determination. The moons literally shaping feline biology. But how? What mechanism allows astronomical phenomena to override genetics? The answer must be magical, but the magic must be incredibly ancient and powerful to affect an entire species consistently across generations. Some theories suggest the moons aren't natural satellites, but massive soul gems containing bound god or gods whose dreams shape Khajiit development. Others propose the lunar lattice is a curse or blessing placed on the Khajiit's ancestors, binding them to the moons as punishment or protection. The most radical theory suggests the Khajiit aren't really feline at all, but shapeshifters whose true form is unknowable. The lunar lattice serving as framework that forces them into stable shapes so other races can perceive and interact with them without madness. The mysterious prisoner. Every Elder Scrolls protagonist starts as a prisoner. Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim all begin with imprisonment. This is too consistent to be coincidence. Some theories propose it's a practical narrative device, providing blank slate characters who can be whoever players want. But in universe, the pattern is suspicious. Why are world-saving heroes always imprisoned immediately before their adventures begin? One theory suggests imprisonment is how prophecy manifests, that the universe specifically arranges for potential heroes to be captured and placed in positions where they'll be freed at exactly the right moment to fulfill destiny. Another interpretation is darker. Imprisonment breaks people, strips away their old identities, making them more malleable to cosmic forces that need champions without strong personal loyalties or pre-existing obligations. The most unsettling theory is that imprisonment is punishment, that every Elder Scrolls protagonist committed terrible crimes in past lives or alternate timelines, and their adventures are atonement, the universe giving them chances to redeem themselves through heroism that cost them everything. The Towers and reality structure. Tamriel's reality is supposedly held together by towers, massive structures like White Gold Tower, Red Mountain, and the Throat of the World. These aren't just buildings, but cosmic pillars that prevent reality from unraveling. But who built them? Why are they necessary? If reality is natural, why does it need artificial support? Some theories propose the towers were created after convention, the meeting of gods where Lorcan was punished, serving as patches or repairs to fix damage caused by divine conflict. Others suggest towers are weapons, that they don't support reality but suppress it, preventing the natural state of existence from reasserting itself. The most radical theory is that there is no natural reality, that everything mortals experience is artificial, constructed and maintained by the towers, and if they all fell, people would discover they're living in something more akin to a simulation than authentic existence, their entire world revealed as elaborate magical construct with no foundation beneath it. The Dwemer's Numidium Project. The Dwemer built Numidium, a massive brass god designed to achieve something. But what? Different accounts suggest different goals. A weapon to fight other nations, a tool to unmake divine influence, or an attempt to achieve godhood themselves. What's clear is that Numidium was involved in the Dwemer's disappearance, Kagranak activating his tools in desperate attempt to power or control it during the Battle of Red Mountain. But did the project succeed or fail? The traditional view is failure. The Dwemer vanished. Numidium remained inactive until Tiber Septim recovered it. But what if their disappearance was the plan? What if Numidium was designed to be powered by an entire race's souls, and the Dwemer willingly sacrificed themselves to activate it, achieving whatever transcendent goal they'd been pursuing for centuries? If true, this means the Dwemer succeeded. They just succeeded in a way that looks like failure to outside observers who don't understand what they were attempting. The Slode's absence. Thracian plague devastated Tamriel centuries ago, released by the Slode, a race of slug-like necromancers from an island kingdom. The plague killed thousands before the All-Flags Navy destroyed the Slode homeland, but the Slode aren't extinct. Occasional references suggest they still exist, just hidden, operating from new locations or beneath the sea. So where are they? Why haven't they attempted another plague or retaliation? Some theories suggest they're waiting, that Slode plan in centuries, not years, and their absence is strategic patience while they prepare something worse than the first plague. Others propose they were more damaged by the All-Flags Navy than history records, reduced to few survivors who've lost their culture and power. The most unsettling theory is that the Slode never left, that they've infiltrated Tamriel's societies through necromancy and illusion. Their agents walking among people disguised as humans or elves, slowly positioning themselves for eventual takeover. The Psijic Order's disappearance. The Psijics are ancient mages from Artaeum, an island that sometimes exists and sometimes doesn't. They appear during important events, offer cryptic advice, then vanish along with their entire island. But where does Artaeum go? Psijics claim they remove it from normal reality for protection. But protection from what? What threat requires an entire island to hide in alternate dimensions? Some theories suggest Artaeum doesn't move at all, but becomes invisible. The Psijics maintaining massive illusion that makes people forget it exists. Others propose the island literally travels through time, appearing when needed in past or future, making the Psijics' knowledge of events explained by experiencing them directly from multiple temporal perspectives. The most radical theory is that Artaeum isn't an island, but a mobile realm, a piece of oblivion the Psijics captured and learned to control, and their magic is actually manipulation of Daedric energies they've trapped in their portable dimension. The Hist consciousness. The Hist are sentient trees in Black Marsh that communicate with and guide the Argonians. But what are they really? They predate current Kalpa, surviving from previous cycles of reality, making them among the oldest beings in existence. Their consciousness is collective, all histories forming single vast intelligence. But what are their goals? Why do they breed and guide Argonians? Some theories propose Argonians are tools, biological constructs the Hiss created to interact with the world on their behalf, since trees can't move or manipulate objects easily. This would make Argonians essentially symbiotic organisms, their free will questionable when the Hiss can call them back to Black Marsh and reprogram them through SAB. Others suggest the Hiss are refugees from a destroyed reality, and they're using Argonians to prepare this world for eventual invasion or transformation, gradually altering Tamriel's ecosystem to make it suitable for whatever other refugees might still be coming from their lost dimension. Sheogorath's true identity. In Oblivion, players can become Sheogorath, taking on the role of Daedric Prince of Madness. In Skyrim, you meet Sheogorath again, and he makes references suggesting he's the Oblivion protagonist, now fully transformed into the Daedric Prince. But is this the same consciousness? When you become Sheogorath, does your original personality persist? Or are you overwritten by the Daedric role? The prince you meet in Skyrim seems genuinely mad, not just pretending, suggesting that taking on the role of madness makes you mad for real. Some theories propose the Oblivion protagonist is trapped, their original consciousness buried beneath layers of Sheogorath's identity, screaming silently within their own mind while madness controls their actions. Others suggest consciousness doesn't persist at all, that becoming a Daedric Prince kills who you were and replaces you with ancient pattern that's inhabited the role for eons. Either way, the cheerful mad god you meet might contain the dying remnants of a hero who saved the world, now lost forever in insanity they can't escape. The Void Knights. 40 years before Skyrim, the moons disappeared for 2 years. This wasn't an eclipse, but total absence. The moon's simply gone from the sky. For Khajiit, this was apocalyptic. Their entire reproduction cycle depends on lunar phases. No one knows what happened. The moons returned as mysteriously as they vanished, with no explanation. The Thalmor claimed credit for restoring them, gaining significant Khajiit support, but many doubt they had that power. Alternative theories suggest the disappearance was natural, some cosmic event that blocked or removed the moons temporarily. The most disturbing theory is that the moons were destroyed, that someone or something killed them, and what returned aren't the original moons but replacements, convincing illusions or artificial recreations that fool everyone into thinking things are back to normal. If true, this means the Khajiit's connection to the moons is now based on lie, their morphology determined by fake celestial bodies, raising questions about what they'll become in future generations. The Clockwork City's purpose. Sotha Sil built a mechanical replica of Tamriel in a pocket dimension, a perfect clockwork recreation of the world where he could experiment without consequence. But why? What was he trying to accomplish? Creating an entire world is resource-intensive beyond imagination. Sotha Sil must have had crucial reason. Some theories suggest he was attempting to understand and eventually fix reality's flaws. Using his Clockwork City as testing ground for improvements he planned to implement in the real world. Others propose he was building an escape, that he saw the inevitable death of Mundus and wanted to create artificial replacement where consciousness could continue after natural reality failed. The darkest theory is that Sotha Sil went mad, that his Clockwork City is a meaningless vanity project, and he wasted centuries of divine power building elaborate toy because he couldn't cope with godhood's isolation and needed something to do with eternity. The Redguard's mysterious arrival. Redguards aren't native to Tamriel. They came from Yakuda, a continent that sank beneath the ocean due to catastrophe involving something called the Pancrata sword, or a forbidden sword technique that literally cut the world. But the details are vague and contradictory. How does a sword technique destroy a continent? Why was it used if the consequences were known? Some theories suggest the Red Guard deliberately sank Yakuda, that they were fleeing something worse than drowning, and destroying their homeland was the only way to prevent it from following them. Others propose Yakuda isn't destroyed but transformed, that it exists in a different state of reality, and Red Guard can't return, not because their homeland is gone, but because the path between worlds closed behind them. The most radical theory is that Yakuda never existed at all, that Red Guard are from a previous Kalpa, survivors who persisted through the world's destruction and entered the current cycle with false memories implanted to explain their presence. The Elder Scrolls' true nature. The scrolls themselves are mysteries, their prophecies, histories, and possibilities all at once, existing outside normal time. Reading them can cause blindness, madness, or transcendent understanding. But what are they physically? Who writes them? Some appear and disappear spontaneously, suggesting they're not created by mortal hands. Theories propose they're fragments of Akatosh's consciousness, pieces of time itself given physical form so mortals can interact with them. Others suggest they're records kept by something outside reality, perhaps the dreamer, if you subscribe to the theory that all existence is Godhead's sleeping thoughts. The most unsettling interpretation is that Elder Scrolls are alive, conscious entities that manipulate their readers, showing each person exactly what will drive them toward desired outcomes, orchestrating history by controlling access to information about what might be. Lig and the previous Kalpa. Obscure texts mention Lig, an alternate or previous version of Tamriel from a past Kalpa. If the world is cyclically destroyed and recreated, what survives from previous cycles? The Hiss supposedly do, and they remember previous worlds. But are there others? Structures or beings that persist across Kalpic transitions? Some theories suggest dragon priests and possibly dragons themselves are survivors from previous cycles, their worship of time god Akatosh giving them stability that allows them to exist across multiple versions of reality. Others propose that every Kalpa is slightly different, and Lig isn't a previous cycle, but a parallel one, a Tamriel that exists simultaneously in adjacent dimension, occasionally bleeding through in the form of impossible architecture or entities that don't match current world's rules. The most disturbing theory is that Kalpas don't end cleanly, that fragments of destroyed worlds accumulate, and reality is becoming increasingly unstable as more and more incompatible versions of existence try to occupy the same space. The Saishi and Akavir, the mysterious continent of Akavir, is home to several races, including the Saichi, described as vampire snakes who ate all the humans on their continent. But every account of Akavir is second-hand or ancient. No one in Skyrim has been there recently. For all anyone knows, the continent is completely different now than described in old texts. Some theories suggest Saishi didn't eat humans literally, but conquered and absorbed them culturally, consuming them in metaphorical sense. Others propose Saishi are shapeshifters who appear as vampiric serpents to some observers and as armored warriors to others, their true form unknowable. The most radical theory is that Akavir doesn't exist as physical place, but as spiritual concept, and the Saishi invasions mentioned in history were actually Daedric incursions, misidentified by Tamriel scholars as foreign armies. The whole continent being myth created to explain events nobody understood. The Morma and Pyandonea. The sea elves live on an island shrouded in permanent mist, periodically attacking Tamriel before retreating. But why? What do they want? Their raids seem purposeless, hitting coastal cities then withdrawing without occupation or clear territorial goals. Some theories suggest they're testing Tamriel's defenses, gathering intelligence for eventual full invasion. Others propose they're not attacking but fleeing, that something on Pyandanea drives them away periodically, and they attack Tamriel not from aggression, but desperation for living space. The most mysterious aspect is their leader, the Morma King, who supposedly achieved immortality and rules eternally. If true, this means Pyandanea has been governed by the same individual for thousands of years, raising questions about what such extended life does to psychology, and whether the raids are part of coherent long-term strategy only an immortal could conceive. The Numidium's effect on time. When activated, Numidium doesn't just destroy enemies, it breaks time. Battles against it are described as lasting both seconds and years simultaneously. Observers experiencing temporal distortion that makes chronology meaningless. This isn't just powerful magic, it's fundamental reality damage. Some theories propose Numidium functions by denying the existence of things it destroys, not killing them, but retroactively making it so they never were, explaining why defeating it feels wrong and why survivors struggle to describe what happened. Others suggest Numidium is antithesis to the Orbis, an anti-god machine that contradicts creation, and activating it weakens reality's stability, bringing the current culpa closer to its inevitable end. The most terrifying implication is that every time Numidium activates, it permanently damages time, and the effects accumulate, making existence gradually less stable, explaining why Elder Scrolls history becomes increasingly chaotic and reality-breaking as time progresses. The Imga and Valenwood. The Imga are ape-like beings from Valenwood who worship men and try to imitate human behavior, powdering their fur to appear lighter, wearing clothing, and adopting human customs. They're mentioned in lore but never appear in any game. Where are they? Did they go extinct? Were they myths that never existed? Some theories suggest they evolved or transformed into something else, perhaps through Valenwood's bizarre magical ecosystem that changes everything it touches. Others propose they're hiding, that their human worship made them targets during periods of human-elf conflict, and they retreated into Valenwood's depths to survive. The most unsettling theory is that they achieved their goal perfectly. They became so good at imitating humans that they're indistinguishable from them now, and some Bretons or Imperials are actually Imga, who successfully transformed themselves through generations of dedicated mimicry, their true nature forgotten even by themselves. The Dreamsleave and reincarnation. When mortals die, their souls supposedly enter the Dreamsleave, a cosmic recycling system that strips away memories and personality before returning souls to be reborn in new bodies. But what exactly is the Dreamsleave? Who maintains it? The metaphor of sleeve suggests it's a garment worn by something larger, but what? Some theories propose it's part of the Godhead's dreaming process, consciousness, passing through it like water through a filter, being cleaned between incarnations. Others suggest it's Mnemoly, the blue star, an entity associated with memory and forgetting, processing souls to maintain cosmic balance. The most disturbing implication is that you've lived countless lives before your current one, but you'll never remember them. Every personality you've been erased completely, making identity itself temporary and meaningless. Your current thoughts and feelings destined for deletion the moment you die. The Magnage's plans. The spirits who followed Magnus through his sun hole into Aetherius abandoned creation, but did they abandon it permanently? Some texts suggest they watch Mundus from Aetherius, observing mortal development like scientists studying an experiment. But why watch? What are they waiting for? Some theories propose they'll return when mortals reach sufficient advancement, swooping down to claim a world they let others build for them. Others suggest they're waiting for the current Kalpa to end, planning to participate in next world's creation, but only after seeing what went wrong this time. The most unsettling theory is that the Magnage fled because they knew Mundus would become prison, and they're watching to see if mortals figure out they're trapped, curious whether awareness of the prison will lead to escape attempts or acceptance of captivity. Riemann Cyrodiil's divine right. The Second Empire was founded by Raymond, who claimed descent from Alesia and possessed Amulet of Kings, proving his divine right to rule. But his sudden appearance and convenient royal blood are suspiciously tidy. Some theories suggest he was a fraud, someone who found or stole the amulet and fabricated a noble lineage to justify seizing power during a crisis. Others propose he was Cesarine, an incarnation of Lorcan sent to guide mortals during the Akaviri invasion. His divine descent real, but not from Alessia's bloodline. The most radical theory is that Raymond was Talus's previous incarnation, that the god was testing out mortality across multiple lives before finally achieving divinity as Tiber Septim, each incarnation learning from the previous's mistakes until perfecting the process of ascending from mortal to deity. The tribunal's power source. The tribunal gods of Morrowind drew power from the heart of Lorcan, maintaining immortality and divine abilities through regular pilgrimages to Red Mountain. But they weren't using the heart correctly, weren't following Kagrenak's original design. They just connected to it and drained power like vampires feeding on a sleeping god. What damage did this cause? The heart was Lorcan's literal divine essence, and the tribunal spent centuries siphoning from it. Some theories suggest they were slowly killing it, that by the time the Nerevarine destroyed the heart's enchantment in Morrowind, it was already dying, corrupted by millennia of improper use. Others propose the heart was draining them rather than the reverse, that Lorcan's consciousness was gradually infiltrating the tribunal, explaining their increasing instability and moral degradation over time. The darkest theory is that the heart is still alive, just no longer accessible, and it's angry, plotting revenge against the Dunmer who enslaved it for so long. The Sixth House's true goal. Dagoth planned to spread corporous disease across Tamriel, transforming everyone into his mindless servants. But was mindless the goal? The Sixth House proclaimed itself the true inheritors of Morrowind, suggesting Dagoth wanted worship, not zombies. Perhaps Corporus was supposed to do something more sophisticated, reprogram people to see Dagoth as rightful God King, while maintaining enough consciousness to make their worship meaningful. The Nerevarine stopped him before the plan fully manifested, so we'll never know what final stage Corporus looked like. Some theories suggest it would have created hive mind, all infected, sharing Dagoth consciousness, becoming extensions of his will while retaining their memories and skills, making them more useful than simple monsters. Others propose Corporus was meant to destroy the barrier between dreams and reality, making Dagoth nightmares physically manifest, turning all Tamriel into surreal hellscape where his vision became actual environment. The Wheels of Lull. Obscure text describes a device called the Wheels of Lull, a mechanism that manipulates time itself, mentioned only in a few sources and never elaborated. What is it? Where is it? Who built it? Some theories suggest it's another Dwemer creation, similar to Numidium, but focused on temporal manipulation rather than reality denial. Others propose it's much older, possibly predating the current Kalpa, a tool left over from previous world that the Dwemer discovered and tried to replicate. The most intriguing theory is that the wheels of Lol aren't machine, but location, a place where time behaves. Strangely, perhaps a pocket dimension where past, present and future coexist simultaneously, and Lol refers to a temporal dead zone where nothing changes because all possible changes happen at once, cancelling each other out. The Thalmor's false victory. The Aldmeri Dominion claims they saved the world during the Oblivion Crisis by closing Oblivion gates and stopping Mehrunes Dagon's invasion. But other provinces also fought the Daedra successfully. Why do the Thalmor get credit? Some theories suggest they propagandized their role, exaggerating their importance while downplaying other nations' contributions. Others propose they actually did something crucial that other provinces didn't witness. Perhaps a behind-the-scenes magical operation that genuinely stopped Dagon's advance in ways that superficial gate closing couldn't. The darkest theory is that the Thalmor were working with Dagon, that the invasion was staged with Thalmor cooperation, designed to weaken the Empire while making the Dominion look heroic. The whole crisis orchestrated to shift power in the Thalmor's favor, explaining why they emerged so strong after a supposedly apocalyptic event. The Elnofey and modern races. The Elnofey were original spirits who refused to return to Aetherius after Magnus fled, staying on Nirn and becoming its first inhabitants. They divided into two groups, those who maintained their magical nature and those who embraced mortality, splitting into the races we know today. But this is oversimplified. How does one ancestral species become elves, humans, beastfolk, all with radically different biologies? Some theories propose the Elnofey weren't single species, but diverse group from the start, each faction becoming different race based on which Aedra they worshipped or which region they settled. Others suggest the 8 divines deliberately engineered the differences, creating specialized races for specific purposes, making modern Tamriel's population less natural, evolution and more planned diversity. The most unsettling implication is that races might not be as distinct as believed, that with correct magic or circumstances, an elf could become human or vice versa, the differences being superficial transformations rather than fundamental biology. The missing Bosmer Green Pact. The Wood Elves of Valenwood swore the Green Pact, promising to never harm plants in their homeland. This includes not eating vegetables, building from wood, or even picking flowers. They're strict carnivores, and they practice ritual cannibalism to dispose of enemies. But how sustainable is this? Valenwood's forest can't possibly support an entirely carnivorous population of hundreds of thousands. Where does all the meat come from? Some theories propose the forests themselves provide, that Valenwood's plants grow meat somehow, or that animals reproduce impossibly fast to meet Bosmer demand. Others suggest the Bosmer cheat, importing food from other provinces while pretending it's all local meat. The most disturbing theory is that the cannibalism isn't just ritual but necessary, that Bosmer have to eat sentient beings regularly to maintain their shape-shifting abilities, and the Green Pact is cover story for what's actually biological requirement to consume intelligent prey. The Dwemer puzzle boxes. Scattered across ruins, these intricate mechanical puzzles serve no obvious purpose. They don't protect treasure or guard pathways. They just exist as brain teasers. Why did the Dwemer build them? Some theories suggest they were teaching tools, ways to educate Dwemer children in mechanical principles. Others propose they were tests, that the Dwemer believed intelligence was sacred, and these puzzles identified worthy individuals who could be trusted with deeper secrets. The most intriguing theory is that the puzzles are keys, that each one solved sends signal to some central Dwemer mechanism, and when enough are solved, something will activate, perhaps opening the way to wherever the Dwemer actually went. Players have been solving them for years, potentially getting closer to triggering something ancient and terrible without knowing it. The Skeleton Army. In Labyrinthian, hundreds of skeletons are assembled in formation, standing in ranks as if awaiting orders. They don't attack unless provoked. Why are they there? Who organized them? The area is controlled by undead dragon priest Morokei, suggesting he's responsible. But why arrange skeletons this way? Some theories propose they're an army he planned to unleash on Skyrim, stopped only when he was trapped in his tomb. Others suggest they're remnants of living people who died in formation, their positions preserved after death. The most unsettling theory is that they're waiting for something, that Morokei gave them orders to stand ready until a specific condition is met, and they've been waiting for thousands of years, patient as only the dead can be, ready to activate the moment that condition is finally satisfied. The Sanguine Rose's true cost. Sanguine gives you his rose artifact, a staff that summons Dremora after a drinking contest and subsequent hangover quest. But Sanguine doesn't give gifts without payment. What did you actually trade him? The quest frames everything as a joke, a fun night of drinking with a party-loving Daedric prince. But you don't remember most of it. What did you promise while blackout drunk? Some theories suggest the staff is payment for entertainment, that Sanguine was so amused by your drunken antics that the rose is genuine reward. Others propose you sold something without realizing it, perhaps years off your life or rights to your soul after death. The contract signed in an alcoholic haze you can't remember. The most disturbing possibility is that you didn't trade anything yet, that the rose is alone and Sanguine is waiting to collect later, at a time when you've forgotten the debt entirely, making it impossible to prepare for repayment. The last Dragonborn's fate. You defeat Alduin, save the world, possibly become head of multiple organizations, marry, buy houses, live seemingly normal life. But what happens to the last Dragonborn after the game ends? Every previous hero disappeared mysteriously. The Nerevarine went to Akavir and never returned. The champion of Cyrodiil became Sheogorath. Heroes don't retire peacefully. Something always claims them. Some theories suggest the Dragonborn is pulled into Akatosh's service, needed for divine purposes that require someone with dragon soul. Others propose Hermaeus Mora claims you, his price for the forbidden knowledge gained in Dragonborn DLC, dragging you to Apocrypha to serve as librarian for eternity. The darkest theory is that you can't truly survive absorbing dozens of dragon souls, that you're slowly being overwhelmed by their memories and instincts, and eventually you'll either go mad or transform into a dragon yourself, forgetting you were ever human, adding one more ancient dragon to the landscape for some future hero to kill. The giant civilization. Giants herd mammoths and live in primitive camps, but murals in some ruins show giants and Nords fighting together, suggesting they once had culture and cooperation. What happened? Why did giants devolve while Nords advanced? Some theories suggest environmental change made their lifestyle unsustainable, that they were forced to simplify to survive climate shifts or resource shortages. Others propose there was a war, that giants once threatened Nordic dominance and were systematically destroyed, reduced to scattered remnants who lost their culture through genocide. The most tragic theory is that giants chose simplicity, that they saw where civilization was heading and deliberately regressed, abandoning technology and culture to avoid the wars and corruption that consumed more advanced races, making their apparent primitiveness actually philosophical choice. The missing snow elves. The former are degenerate snow elves, but you meet one uncorrupted snow elf in Dawnguard, Gelebor, a priest who avoided the transformation. He's completely alone, the last of his kind, who remembers what snow elves were. But he claims there might be others in hidden locations, sanctuaries where snow elves avoided the Dwemer's poison. Is this hope or delusion? Some theories suggest he's right, that small populations of snow elves survived in secret and are waiting for the surface to be safe before revealing themselves. Others propose he's the literal last one, clinging to impossible hope because admitting extinction is too painful. The most interesting theory is that uncorrupted snow elves became something else entirely, perhaps integrating with other elf populations and hiding in plain sight, their descendants scattered among modern elves with no idea of their heritage. The dragon burial mounds. Dragons were supposedly hunted to extinction, buried in mounds across Skyrim. But who buried them? Dragons don't conduct funerals for each other. They barely acknowledge death as meaningful. Ancient Nords must have buried them, but this is bizarre behavior. If you hunted a dragon to near death, why not finish it? Why bury it alive and create a mound? Some theories suggest the Nords tried to kill the dragons but couldn't, so they trapped them underground, hoping burial would serve as eternal imprisonment. Others propose the burials were ritual, that dragon priests ordered it, planning to resurrect their masters when conditions were right. The most unsettling theory is that the dragons weren't buried by enemies, but by allies, that some ancient pact allowed dragons to enter hibernation voluntarily, buried to await a specific signal or event that would wake them, making Alduin's resurrection of dragons not a betrayal, but a fulfillment of an ancient agreement. The augur of Dunlane's warnings. The energy being beneath the college speaks in riddles and warnings, occasionally mentioning things that haven't happened yet, or referencing events with no context. Is he truly seeing future, or is he mad? Some theories suggest his transformation gave him perception beyond linear time, that he experiences past, present, and future simultaneously, making his warnings genuine but difficult for mortals to interpret. Others propose he's not seeing the future, but many possible futures, a multitude of timelines, and his confusion comes from not knowing which will actually occur. The most disturbing possibility is that he's not in the college at all, that what you speak to is an echo or projection, the actual augur existing in some other dimension or time frame, and the connection is imperfect, making communication fragmented and unreliable. The Stormcrown Interregnum. Between Tiber Septim's dynasty ending and the Mede dynasty beginning, there was a period of chaos with multiple claimants to the Ruby Throne. This is glossed over in history, a few decades treated as unfortunate but minor. But those decades saw multiple wars, political assassinations, and collapse of institutions. What really happened? Some theories suggest someone or something deliberately destroyed the Septim bloodline, systematically eliminating heirs to ensure the dynasty ended. Others propose Talos himself withdrew his favor, that the god decided his descendants were unworthy and allowed the empire to fall. The most intriguing theory is that the interregnum was manipulated by the Thalmor even then, that they were working behind the scenes centuries before the Aldmeri Dominion officially reformed, planting the seeds of Empire's destruction decades before anyone realized a plan was in motion. Hermaeus Mora's forbidden knowledge. The Daedric Prince of Knowledge claims to know everything that can be known, every secret, every spell, every truth. But can this be true? If Mora knows everything, why does he need mortals to find black books and bring him new knowledge? Some theories suggest he's lying, that his library is incomplete, and he uses mortals as research assistants to fill gaps. Others propose he knows everything that has been discovered, but not things that haven't been thought of yet, making him dependent on mortal creativity to expand his collection. The most unsettling theory is that Mora's knowledge includes information about events that haven't occurred, meaning he can read possible futures, and every action you take is already documented in Apocrypha before you've decided to do it, making free will an illusion because the book of your life is already written. The Morag Tong versus Dark Brotherhood. The Morag Tong are legal assassins in Morrowind, sanctioned by the government. The Dark Brotherhood are criminals hunted across Tamriel. Both kill for money. What makes them different morally? Some argue the Morag Tong's legal status makes them legitimate, that government approval transforms murder into execution. Others see no distinction. Both are killers regardless of legal frameworks. But here's the mystery. The Morag Tong is supposedly older, predating the Dark Brotherhood, but both worship death-related entities. Some theories suggest the Dark Brotherhood split from the Morag Tong centuries ago, a schism over religious interpretation, making them ideological rivals rather than fundamentally different organizations. Others propose they're not rivals at all, but division of labor, with the Morag Tong handling contracts where publicity is acceptable, and the Brotherhood handling ones requiring absolute secrecy. The two organizations secretly cooperating while pretending to be enemies. The nature of souls. Everyone has a soul, but what is it exactly? It's described as life force, consciousness, immortal essence. But these are metaphors. Physical properties of souls are unclear. They can be trapped in gems, sold to Daedra, absorbed by the Dragonborn. Are they energy, consciousness, both? Some theories propose souls are fragments of the original Aedra, who created Nirn, pieces of divine power distributed among mortals, making everyone literally part god. Others suggest souls are independent entities that inhabit bodies, using flesh as vehicles, explaining how soul traps work by catching the soul as it attempts to leave a dying body. The most disturbing theory is that souls aren't real, that consciousness is illusion, and soul gems trap nothing but dying brain patterns that simulate consciousness, meaning necromancy animates corpses with recorded thoughts rather than resurrecting actual people. The Greybeard's true power. The Greybeards are masters of the Thu'um, yet they refuse to use it except for training and communication. Why? They claim speaking carelessly causes harm. Their voice is too powerful for casual conversation. But this seems like an excuse. If they're truly that powerful, why aren't they ruling Skyrim? Some theories suggest they took vows of non-intervention, that an ancient pact with dragons or gods forbids them from using their voices for worldly matters. Others propose they're not as powerful as claimed, that their whispered speech is dramatic affectation, hiding more mundane abilities. The most intriguing theory is that they can't use the Thu'um beyond their mountain, because its power is location-based. that the throat of the world amplifies their voices, and leaving it would reveal them as ordinary old men with no special abilities, so they stay on the mountain to maintain the mystery. The Dragon War's true cause. Dragons ruled ancient Skyrim, and then suddenly humans rebelled. Why? What changed? Dragons are immortal and vastly powerful. How did humans even conceive that rebellion was possible, let alone successful? Some theories suggest a dragon taught them, that Parthenax's betrayal wasn't opportunistic, but planned, perhaps motivated by prophecy or divine intervention that told him human rule was inevitable. Others propose the dragons were already dying from something, weakened by disease or curse, and humans took advantage of their vulnerability. The most radical theory is that the rebellion was orchestrated by the gods themselves, that the Aedra decided dragon rule was preventing mortal development, and they secretly supported the uprising, providing dragonborn champions and teaching humans shouts specifically to kill what should have been unkillable overlords. Sheogorath's Wabbajack. This staff transforms targets into random creatures or items, its effects unpredictable and chaotic. But is it truly random? Some players claim patterns, that specific targets always transform into specific results. Others report wildly different outcomes for identical situations. Some theories suggest the Wabbajack isn't random but personalized, that it transforms targets based on the wielder's subconscious thoughts, manifesting random-seeming results that actually reflect hidden desires. Others propose the staff is sentient, that it chooses transformations based on its own mad sense of humor, making it less a tool and more a partner in chaos. The most disturbing possibility is that the Wabbajack doesn't transform anything, that it reveals what targets always were underneath, stripping away illusions to show true forms, suggesting everyone is something other than they appear, and we're all just disguised creatures walking around pretending to be human. The Daedric Princes' limitations. Daedric princes are immortal and godlike, yet they seem weirdly constrained. They can't directly enter Mundus without elaborate rituals. They need mortal champions to accomplish goals, and they're bound by mysterious rules they can't break. What limits them? Some theories suggest it's the Aedra, that the 8 divines establish barriers preventing Daedric interference in the mortal plane. Others propose the limitations are self-imposed, that the princes agreed to restrictions to make mortal affairs more interesting, viewing direct intervention as cheating in a game they play among themselves. The most unsettling theory is that the limitations aren't voluntary, that something more powerful than Daedric princes exists, something that enforces cosmic law and punishes gods who misbehave, suggesting the hierarchy of power extends beyond what mortals understand, with entities so far above Daedric princes that Mehrunes Dagon and Molag Bal are essentially insects compared to whatever actually controls the Orbis. The throat of the world's origin. The highest mountain in Skyrim is also where Alduin was first defeated and sent forward through time. But the throat existed before that battle, already considered sacred. Why? What made it special before the dragons? Some theories suggest it's one of the towers, a cosmic pillar holding reality together, its height symbolizing its importance to creation stability. Others propose it's literally Akatosh's work, that the time god created the mountain as monument to himself, or as anchor point for the dragon's existence in Nirn. The most intriguing theory is that the throat isn't a mountain in normal sense, but a dimensional overlap, a place where Nirn and Aetherius nearly touch, and its height isn't physical elevation, but metaphysical proximity to heaven. explaining why climbing it feels like approaching divinity. The Thuum's rediscovery. Humans supposedly learned the Thuum from dragons, but then forgot it after the Dragon War, with only the Greybeards maintaining the tradition. But forgetting seems unlikely. If you could shout people off cliffs and set things on fire with your voice, why would you let that knowledge disappear? Some theories suggest the Thuum was deliberately suppressed, that Nordic leaders recognized it as threat to order, because any peasant who learned shouts could challenge authority. Others propose it wasn't forgotten, but became secret tradition, passed down in hidden schools, and the Greybeards are just the only public practitioners. The most disturbing theory is that the Thuum stopped working, that something changed after the Dragon War that made voice-based magic less effective, and the Greybeards maintain their tradition not to preserve power, but to maintain illusion of power, speaking whispered words on a mountain where nobody can test whether their shouts still function. The Forsworn's true goals. The Forsworn claim to be fighting for Reachman independence, reclaiming the Reach from Nord occupation. But their methods are indiscriminate terrorism, killing innocent travelers and civilians along with soldiers. This undermines their political message. Are they actually independence fighters? Or have they become something else? Some theories suggest the Forsworn leadership doesn't want independence anymore, but revenge. That generations of oppression turn legitimate freedom movement into death cult. Others propose external manipulation, that someone benefits from forsworn violence, continuing indefinitely, keeping the Reach unstable to prevent it from becoming powerful enough to threaten neighboring holds. The most unsettling possibility is that Forsworn served Daedric princes, possibly Hircine or Molag Bal, their fight for independence being cover for religious extremism, with leaders knowing they can't win politically and embracing perpetual war as form of worship. The civil war's inevitable outcome. No matter which side you support, the civil war feels inconclusive. Skyrim is damaged, populations killed, nothing fundamentally resolved. Was there a correct choice? Some theories argue the Empire should win to maintain unity against the Thalmor threat. Others claim Stormcloaks represent self-determination and should prevail. But perhaps both are wrong. Perhaps the war itself is the point, a deliberate trap where both outcomes lead to the same place. A weakened Skyrim that can't resist when the Thalmor eventually invade in force. The prophecy about the Dragonborn says nothing about fixing politics or choosing sides. You stop Alduin, but don't resolve the civil war definitively, because it's not your role. You're a dragon hunter, not a politician, and the war will continue grinding Skyrim into dust, whether you participate or not. The Jarl's mysterious authority. Jarl's rule holds, but where does their authority come from? They're not appointed by a king or elected by citizens. They seem to inherit position through unclear lineages. When a Jarl is replaced during the Civil War, the new one simply takes over, and people accept it. Why? What prevents anyone with an army from declaring themselves Jarl? Some theories suggest ancient magic binds Jarls to their holds, that the position isn't just political, but mystical, with Jarls serving as spiritual guardians whose authority is recognized on metaphysical level. Others propose it's pure force, that Jarls are simply warlords who maintain control through loyalty and violence, and the pageantry of courts and thrones is decoration on fundamentally brutal power structure. The lack of rebellion against clearly incompetent Jarls suggests some binding force keeps citizens obedient beyond fear or tradition. The missing king of Skyrim. Torygg was High King before Ulfric killed him, but the position remains unfilled throughout the game. no moot is called to select a replacement. Why? The Jarls claim both sides need to win the civil war before choosing a new king. But this is circular logic. They can't resolve the war without unified leadership, yet they won't choose leadership until war is resolved. Some theories suggest this is deliberate paralysis, that Jarls prefer the deadlock because a new High King would reduce their individual power. Others propose external pressure, that the Empire prevents moot selection to maintain control through military governor Tullius, rather than risk a legitimate king who might resist imperial authority. The most cynical interpretation is that the High King position was always ceremonial, that Skyrim's actual rulers are the Jarls, and killing Torygg didn't create a power vacuum because the position held no real power to begin with. The ritual stone's dark purpose. This standing stone allows you to raise nearby corpses as undead thralls temporarily. But who created the standing stones? They predate recorded history, suggesting a civilization with magical sophistication rivaling or exceeding the Dwemer. The ritual stone implies its builders practiced necromancy casually, raising the dead as normal magical activity. What culture found death magic so acceptable they'd create permanent monuments to it? Some theories suggest the standing stones are Daedric, that princes influenced their creation, with different stones representing different spheres of influence. Others propose they're the work of an extinct race, possibly snow elves or ancient Needs, who worshipped death gods and built these stones as temples. The most unsettling theory is that the stones are alive, that they're not built by anyone but grown or evolved, manifestations of Nirn's magical essence taking physical form, and activating them doesn't grant powers but awakens something that's been sleeping in the earth. The Ogma Infinium's true price. Hermaeus Mora's book grants instant knowledge and skill, advancing your abilities in exchange for completing his quest. But knowledge doesn't work that way. You can't read a book and suddenly become master warrior or mage. The Ogma Infinium must be doing something more. Some theories suggest it's not teaching but stealing, that it copies skills from others and transfers them to you, making your sudden mastery come at someone else's expense. Strangers across Tamriel suddenly forgetting abilities you've gained. Others propose the book rewrites your past, implanting false memories of training you never did, making you believe you earned skills that were actually granted by magic. The most disturbing possibility is that the book shows you future, giving you glimpses of abilities you'll develop naturally over years, and then compresses that development into instant acquisition, essentially aging your consciousness without aging your body, making you older than you should be in all the ways that matter. The 8 versus 9 divines. Talos is banned, making worship of the 9 divines illegal under white gold concordat. But why does this matter metaphysically? If Talos is genuinely a god, can banning worship actually affect him? Some theories suggest gods derive power from worship. That belief itself sustains divine beings, making the Talos ban an existential threat that could weaken or kill him if it spreads far enough. Others propose the ban doesn't affect Talos but mortals, that preventing worship cuts people off from divine blessings, weakening society rather than the god. The most radical theory is that Talos never became a god at all, that his divinity is propaganda, and the Thalmor know this, their ban exposing the lie by demonstrating that nothing happens when people stop worshipping him. If true, this means the Empire's entire legitimacy is built on a fiction, and the civil war is fought over theological question with no correct answer. The Dark Brotherhood's Night Mother, a corpse that speaks to listeners, providing assassination contracts. But how does she know what contracts are available? Who tells her? The ritual of black sacrament supposedly alerts her to desires for death. But this is metaphysically complex. Does she have omniscient perception of everyone performing the ritual? Is she reading minds? Some theories suggest the Night Mother isn't receiving prayers, but generating them. That she creates desires in people's minds, making them think they want someone dead when really she's planting that thought, manipulating mortals into paying for deaths she wants to occur. Others propose she's not aware at all, that the voice listeners hear is their own intuition, and the Night Mother's corpse serves as psychological focus for assassins to project onto, her consciousness being collective unconscious of the Brotherhood itself. The darkest theory is that she was never human, that the corpse is just a vessel, and what speaks through it is something ancient and hungry that feeds on death itself. The Blades near extinction. The Blades were dragon hunters who became Emperor's bodyguards, then were nearly wiped out by the Thalmor. But only 3 survive. An organization that important had no backup plans, no hidden chapters, no way to preserve their order. Some theories suggest the Blades weren't as prominent as history claims, that by the 4th era they were already dying, reduced to ceremonial guards, and the Thalmor just finished what time had started. Others propose many Blades survived by hiding their identities, that the Order still exists but underground, waiting for safety before revealing themselves. The most cynical interpretation is that the Blades deserved extinction, that their transformation from dragon hunters to political assassins corrupted them beyond redemption, and their destruction was cosmic justice for abandoning their original purpose in favor of serving mortal power. The Ebonheart Pact's collapse, this alliance between Nords, Dunmer, and Argonians, seems historically impossible given their mutual hostilities. What made them cooperate? And why did the pact dissolve? By Skyrim's time, the 3 races are back to traditional conflicts. Some theories suggest the pact was built on shared desperation. Threats so severe that cooperation was necessary for survival. But once those threats passed, old hatreds reasserted themselves. Others propose the pact was sabotaged, possibly by Thalmor manipulation, convinced that 3 united provinces could threaten Aldmeri dominance. The most interesting theory is that the pact never truly ended, that secret alliances persist beneath official hostilities, making current conflicts theater designed to disguise ongoing cooperation, suggesting the real state of international relations is hidden from ordinary citizens who believe propaganda about eternal racial enmity. The missing Akaviri Dragon Guard. The Blades descended from the Akaviri Dragon Guard, warriors from Akavir who came to Tamriel hunting dragons thousands of years ago. But where are the other Akaviri? If an entire army came hunting dragons, they must have been a significant population. Did they all integrate into Tamrielian society? Some theories suggest they did, that people with Akaviri heritage are scattered across the empire, their distinct culture diluted through generations of intermarriage. Others propose they went home after dragons were thought extinct, returning to Akavir with knowledge of successful hunting techniques. The most unsettling theory is that dragons killed them, that the Dragon Guard was successful but suffered massive casualties, and by the time dragons were defeated, so few Akaviri remained that they couldn't maintain distinct identity, forcing integration through desperation rather than choice. The Emperor's assassination. The Dark Brotherhood kills Emperor Titus Mede II, but he seems to accept death calmly, even requesting his assassin kill the person who ordered the hit. Why? Some theories suggest he knew assassination was coming and accepted it as politically necessary, his death serving a purpose he couldn't achieve alive, possibly unifying the empire through martyrdom. Others propose he was tired, that decades of trying to hold the empire together against overwhelming odds had exhausted him, and death was relief from impossible responsibility. The most intriguing theory is that he wasn't the real emperor at all, but a decoy, the actual emperor hidden safely elsewhere, making the assassination's political impact come from a lie. And the Dark Brotherhood unwittingly participated in propaganda operation that served the Empire's interests. The Pelagius Wing's haunting. The Blue Palace's closed wing is haunted by Pelagius the Mad Spirit, trapped in insane nightmare. But Pelagius died centuries ago. Why is his ghost still present? Most ghosts have clear causes: violent death, unfinished business, powerful emotions. Pelagius was mad but not murdered, died of old age in comfortable circumstances. What bound his spirit? Some theories suggest his madness itself was the binding, that his inability to distinguish reality from delusion trapped him in state of existence between life and death. His ghost unsure whether it's alive or dead. Others propose Sheogorath deliberately trapped him, finding Pelagius's madness entertaining, making the Blue Palace into Daedric Prince's personal theatre. The most disturbing possibility is that Pelagius isn't alone, that many mad people become trapped like this, the world filled with insane ghosts invisible to sane perception, an entire parallel reality of trapped consciousness overlapping with normal existence. The former servants, blind, degenerate farmer, keep human and elf slaves in their tunnels, using them for labor and food. But how do they capture slaves? Former are blind and attack anything they encounter. How do they distinguish between someone to kill and someone to enslave? Some theories suggest they smell fear versus resignation, that they kill those who fight and spare those who surrender immediately. Others propose farmer servants are volunteers, desperate people who descended into ruins seeking refuge and accepted slavery as alternative to starvation on surface. The most horrifying theory is that farmer servants aren't aware they're slaves, that farmer use some form of mind control or conditioning that makes them believe they're living normal lives, their consciousness trapped in pleasant delusion, while their bodies work in nightmare caves, occasionally killed and eaten when they're no longer useful, dying without ever realizing they were prisoners. The ancient former language. You find former text throughout ruins, but nobody can read it. It's related to Snow Elf language, but corrupted, evolved over thousands of years into something unrecognizable. This suggests farmer maintain some culture, that they communicate through written language despite blindness. But why write if you can't see? Some theories suggest the writing isn't for current farmer, but for posterity, that some among them remember their race's history and record it, hoping future generations might recover sight and read their testimony. Others propose the writing is magical, that farmer can sense enchanted text through touch or supernatural perception, making literacy different from surface concepts. The most tragic theory is that the writing is unconscious, that farmer carves symbols compulsively without understanding why, following genetic or magical compulsion from when they were snow elves, creating texts that neither they nor anyone else can interpret, meaningless monuments to lost culture. The dragon attacks pattern. After Alduin's initial attack on Helgen, dragons begin appearing across Skyrim, attacking cities and travelers. But there's no clear pattern. Why attack Riften, but not Winterhold? Why a farm here, a tower there? Some theories suggest dragons choose targets based on ancient grudges, attacking descendants of people who wronged them millennia ago. Others propose they're following Alduin's orders. Their seemingly random attacks actually strategic strikes designed to weaken Skyrim's defenses for eventual invasion. The most unsettling theory is that dragons aren't attacking at all, but reclaiming. That from their perspective, these mountains and valleys belong to them, and they're simply moving back into territory that's rightfully theirs, viewing humans and elves as squatters who must be cleared out to restore proper order. The Dragonborn's dragon soul. You have a dragon's soul in a mortal body. But how did this happen? Akatosh supposedly creates Dragonborn during times of need, but the mechanism is unclear. Were you born with dragon soul, or did it enter you later? Some theories suggest Dragonborn are accidents, mortals who absorb dragon souls, and then become Dragonborn through that acquisition, rather than being chosen from birth. Others propose Dragonborn are fragments of Akatosh himself, pieces of the time god walking Nirn in flesh, making you literally part god. The most disturbing theory is that you're not Dragonborn at all, that Merak or some other entity implanted false memories and powers, making you believe you're special when really you're being controlled. Every heroic action actually serving someone else's agenda while you think you're acting with free will. The Spriggan's true nature. These woodland spirits attack anyone who threatens forests. But what exactly are they? They appear as feminine figures made of wood and leaves, but they're clearly conscious and magical. Are they nature spirits, physical manifestations of forest collective will? Some theories suggest Spriggans are souls of druids or nature worshippers who achieved some form of transformation, bonding with trees so completely that they became hybrid entities. Others propose they're servants of Kinnereth, created by the goddess to protect her sacred groves. The most interesting theory is that Spriggans are actually elves, that ancient Bosmer who violated the Green Pact were transformed into these creatures as punishment, forced to become the trees they swore never to harm, eternally guarding forests as penance for breaking their oath. This would explain their humanoid form and their fierce protection of plant life, their former mortals trapped in arboreal bodies, unable to speak or reason, driven by magical compulsion to defend the very thing they once betrayed. The Dunmer's changing eyes. Dark elves have red eyes in Skyrim, but in Morrowind they had both red and blue eyes depending on lineage. What happened? Did an entire race's genetics change in 200 years? Some theories suggest the Red Mountain's eruption affected Dunmer biology, that ash and magic saturated their homeland, causing mutations that manifested as uniform red eyes across all populations. Others propose it's not biological but magical, that Azura's curse intensified after the tribunal fell, marking all Dunmer more visibly as her people. The most disturbing theory is that blue-eyed Dunmer was systematically killed, that after the Red Year, some faction decided blue eyes indicated weakness or impurity, and a genocide occurred that history doesn't record, leaving only red-eyed survivors who became the entire visible population of the race. The college's ancient purpose. The College of Winterhold is supposedly an institution of magical learning, but it's located in one of Skyrim's most remote and inhospitable regions. Why build a college there? Before the Great Collapse destroyed most of Winterhold, the college was still isolated from major population centers. Some theories suggest it wasn't built as a school, but as a prison, a place to contain dangerous mages or experiments too risky for inhabited areas. Others propose the location was chosen for geological or magical reasons, that Winterhold sits atop something powerful, and the college was built specifically to access or guard whatever lies beneath. The most intriguing theory is that the college wasn't built by men or Mer at all, but discovered, that it's actually an ancient structure from a previous era, possibly Dwemer or earlier, that was repurposed by modern mages who don't understand its original function. The Dunmeri Exodus. After Red Year, when Red Mountain erupted, millions of Dunmer fled Morrowind. Most went to Skyrim and became the Grey Quarter's oppressed underclass. But where are all the others? Millions fled, but we see only small populations in cities. Some theories suggest most died during the Exodus, that the journey and subsequent famine killed more than the eruption itself. Others propose they scattered across multiple provinces, creating refugee communities everywhere that simply aren't shown in Skyrim's limited geography. The most cynical theory is that most were enslaved or killed by opportunistic Nords and Argonians, that the refugee crisis became an opportunity for those with old grudges to eliminate Dunmer, and the survivors we see represent a tiny fraction of original refugees, the rest buried in unmarked graves across the continent. The missing Nords of Atmora. Ysgramor led 500 companions from Atmora to conquer Skyrim, but where did those warriors come from? If Atmora was dying, how did it support a population large enough to send 500 elite fighters, plus however many other migrants? The numbers don't add up. Some theories suggest the 500 companions is mythical exaggeration, that actual numbers were much smaller. Others propose Atmora wasn't dying uniformly, that some regions remained habitable while others froze, creating population pressures that drove migration. The most interesting theory is that the companions weren't all human, that Nord was political identity rather than biological category, and Ysgramor's force included other races who were later written out of history to create narrative of pure Nordic conquest. The cultist attacks. After visiting Solstheim in Dragonborn DLC, cultists begin attacking you on the mainland, sent by Mirag. But how do they know where you are? You could be anywhere in Skyrim, yet they find you consistently. Are they using magic to track you? Do they have informants everywhere? Some theories suggest Hermaeus Mora is helping them, that the Daedric Prince of Knowledge can see through books and teaches them your location. Others propose the cultists aren't tracking you specifically, but attacking anyone who matches your description, and you only encounter the ones who guessed correctly. The most unsettling theory is that they're not from Solstheim at all, but sleeper agents who've been in Skyrim all along, waiting for Mirag's signal, suggesting his cult isn't isolated but continental, with cells throughout Tamriel that have been preparing for his return for centuries. The Gildergreen's restoration. The sacred tree in Whiterun can be restored by retrieving a sapling from the Eldergleam Sanctuary, or through Danica's prayers with Eldergleam sap. But why is the tree important? It's described as sacred to Kinnereth, but dozens of cities have temples without needing special trees. What makes the Gildergreen different? Some theories suggest it's connected to the Eldergleam directly, that all Gildergleam trees are clones or offspring, creating network of sacred flora across Skyrim. Others propose the tree serves practical purpose, possibly producing healing pollen or creating magical shields around Whiterun. The most mystical theory is that the Gildergreen is sentient, that it's aware of everything happening in Whiterun and communicates with Kinnereth directly, making it not just symbol, but actual conduit for divine presence. And its withering wasn't natural aging, but the goddess withdrawing her favor due to the city's actions. The Hag Raven transformation. Hag Ravens are witches who transform themselves through dark rituals into bird-like creatures. But why would anyone choose this? The transformation is irreversible and hideous. What benefit justifies becoming a monster? Some theories suggest the power gained is immense, that Hag Ravens have magical abilities beyond normal mages, making the sacrifice worthwhile for those desperate enough. Others propose the transformation isn't voluntary, that women are tricked or forced into it by cults that promise power, but deliver only corruption. The most tragic theory is that the transformation includes memory modification, that Hag Ravens believe they've always been this way. Their human memories erased or rewritten, making them unable to regret what they've lost because they don't remember being human. The Wolf Queen's legacy. Potema died centuries ago, yet her spirit is still powerful enough to threaten solitude when cultists attempt her resurrection. How? Most ghosts fade with time, their connection to the world weakening. What makes Potema different? Some theories suggest she bound herself to solitude through necromantic rituals, creating permanent anchor that keeps her spirit strong. Others propose she's not really dead, that she escaped death somehow and has been hiding in spiritual form, occasionally influencing events. The most disturbing theory is that every evil act committed in solitude feeds her, that her spirit grows stronger from the city's crimes and corruption, making her an entity that feeds on human darkness, potentially unkillable, because as long as people do evil things above her tomb, she has power source that can never be depleted. The Staff of Magnus's power. This ancient staff can absorb magical energy from any source, draining mages and dispelling enchantments. But who created it? Magnus the architect supposedly left it behind when he fled to Aetherius. But why would he abandon such a powerful artifact? Some theories suggest he left it deliberately as tool for mortals to defend against magical threats he foresaw. Others propose the staff isn't his creation, but something made in his honor, named after him, but crafted by his followers. The most intriguing theory is that the staff is part of Magnus himself, a fragment of divine essence he had to shed to escape Mundus, making it literally piece of a god that mortals can wield, and using it connects the wielder to Magnus's consciousness wherever he currently resides. The Bard's College's true curriculum. The college trains bards, but what are bards for? They tell stories and play music, but this seems insufficient to warrant an entire institution. Some theories suggest bards serve as spies and diplomats, their wandering lifestyle and non-threatening appearance making them perfect for gathering intelligence and delivering secret messages. Others propose they're preserving oral traditions, that in world with limited literacy, bards are essential for maintaining cultural memory. The most mystical interpretation is that bards use magic without realizing it, that their songs and stories affect reality subtly, shaping public opinion, and even altering events through narrative power, making them unconscious practitioners of a form of magic that works through culture rather than spells. The Vampire Lord's origins. Serana can transform you into Vampire Lord, granting enormous power. But where did this ability come from? Normal vampires can't do this. Some theories suggest Vampire Lords are Molag Bal's direct creations. Mortals transform through personal interaction with the Daedric Prince rather than disease transmission. Others propose it's bloodline-based, that only certain vampire families carry genes or curses that manifest as Lord form. The most disturbing theory is that Vampire Lords aren't transformed mortals at all, but partial Daedra, that the transformation is Molag Bal, inserting piece of his essence into victims, making them hybrid beings that are part mortal and part Daedric, explaining their power but also suggesting they're not entirely in control, that Molag Bal can manipulate them remotely through the divine fragment residing in their bodies. The Alika warriors hunt. Alika warriors from Hammerfell are hunting Sadia in Whiterun, claiming she betrayed Hammerfell to Thalmor. But Sadia claims they're assassins sent by the Dominion to silence her. Who's telling the truth? The quest never definitively answers this. Some theories suggest both are lying, that the conflict is internal Redguard politics unrelated to the Thalmor, and both sides are manipulating you for their own purposes. Others propose Sadia is genuinely a traitor, and her claim about being resistance fighter is cover story. The most cynical interpretation is that truth doesn't matter, that both sides have legitimate grievances against each other, and the Dragonborn is forced to choose based on incomplete information, making any decision morally questionable because you can never know if you've helped hero or villain. The Nightingale's trinity, Carlia, Brynjolf, and the Dragonborn become Nightingales, serving Nocturnal in exchange for power. But what exactly is the contract? You serve her in death, but doing what? Nocturnal doesn't explain. Some theories suggest Nightingales become her agents in afterlife, enforcing her will across realms of oblivion. Others propose you're bound to her realm permanently, unable to move on to other afterlives, trapped serving her for eternity. The most disturbing possibility is that the contract transfers your consciousness into one of her shadows, that you literally become part of her darkness, losing individual identity and becoming a fragment of the goddess herself, making the power gained in life come at cost of total annihilation after death. The Wooden Mask's origin. In Labyrinthian, wearing an ancient wooden mask transports you back in time to when dragon priests were alive. But who created this magic? The mask sits in the present, yet activates time travel. Some theories suggest dragon priests created it as escape route, planning to flee to the past if their rule was threatened. Others propose it was made by someone else entirely, possibly as trap to lure people into the past where they can be killed without affecting the present. The most mind-bending theory is that the mask doesn't actually transport you through time, but creates pocket dimension that appears to be the past. A perfect recreation that's functionally identical but temporally separate, making your interactions there not affect actual history, because you never left the present, you just entered elaborate illusion or parallel timeline. The college's responsibility for the Great Collapse. The College of Winterhold survived the Great Collapse that destroyed most of the city. Citizens blame the college, believing mages caused the disaster. The college denies this. But is there truth to the accusations? Some theories suggest a college experiment did cause the collapse, but leadership covered it up to avoid persecution. Others propose the college was trying to prevent a magical catastrophe and partially succeeded, saving themselves but unable to protect the city, making them innocent of causing the disaster, but guilty of failing to stop it. The most interesting theory is that the college deliberately sacrificed the city, that they knew Winterhold would be destroyed and could only save themselves, choosing to let thousands die rather than risk their institution, making them technically innocent but morally monstrous. The Blackwood Company's fall. Mentioned in passing, this former guild supposedly rivaled the Fighters Guild, but was destroyed. What happened to them? The story suggests they used his sap to enhance their warriors, creating berserkers who couldn't distinguish friend from foe. But this seems easily avoidable with proper dosage control. Some theories suggest they were sabotaged, that rivals poisoned their sap supply deliberately to cause the berserker incidents that destroyed their reputation. Others propose they were experimenting with something more dangerous than enhanced combat abilities, possibly trying to create super soldiers or unlock ancient Nordic berserker magic, and the project went catastrophically wrong. The most cynical interpretation is that they weren't destroyed but absorbed, that the Fighters Guild or Empire dismantled them and took their best members, rewriting history to make it look like the company destroyed itself through incompetence. The Dragon Cult's priesthood. Dragon priests ruled ancient Skyrim, but how were they chosen? Were they appointed by dragons, or did they volunteer? The level of power they possessed suggests they underwent extreme training or transformation. Some theories suggest they were once dragon-blooded mortals, similar to Dragonborn, but serving dragons instead of killing them. Others propose they achieved their power through dark rituals that bound them to specific dragons, creating symbiotic relationships where priest and dragon shared power. The most unsettling theory is that dragon priests weren't human at all, but dragons in disguise, that the priests were actually dragons polymorphed into mortal form to better control human populations, making the worship not submission to alien species, but elaborate puppetry where dragons ruled by pretending to be their own servants. The mysterious assassins. Throughout Skyrim, random assassins occasionally attack you with notes indicating someone paid for your death, but no name is given. Who keeps hiring these killers? Some theories suggest it's someone you wronged during quests, NPCs holding grudges you don't remember. Others propose it's procedurally generated enemy rather than plot-driven threat, the notes being flavor text without actual perpetrator. The most paranoid theory is that someone is testing you, that a powerful entity wants to see how you handle assassination attempts, making each attack not murder attempt but examination, and failing to survive would reveal you're not the hero prophecy demands, while succeeding proves you're worthy of whatever challenge lies ahead. The Soul Gem's consciousness. Soul gems contain souls, but are those souls aware? When you trap a bandit's soul, does their consciousness persist inside the gem, fully aware but unable to move or speak? The implications are horrifying. Some theories suggest soul gems destroy consciousness during capture, that the soul's energy is harvested, but the person ceases to exist. Others propose soul sleep, unconscious until released or consumed. The most disturbing interpretation is that souls remain fully conscious, experiencing sensory deprivation torture for however long they're trapped. Some for centuries in ancient enchanted items, their screaming minds unable to affect the world, driven mad by isolation, but unable to die because they're already dead, creating infinite suffering that even death can't end. The Hiss connection to oblivion. The Hiss trees repelled Mehrunes Dagon's invasion during the Oblivion Crisis by pulling Argonians back to Black Marsh and transforming them into perfect Daedra killers. How? Trees shouldn't have power rivaling Daedric princes. Some theories suggest the Hist aren't really trees, but something alien using vegetation as physical form, possibly remnants from previous Kalpa or refugees from destroyed reality. Others propose they have connection to Oblivion itself, that they understand Daedric planes better than mortals and use that knowledge to counter Dagon's invasion. The most radical theory is that Hist are sleeping gods, that Black Marsh contains entities that predate and potentially exceed the current pantheon, and their apparent weakness as trees is disguise hiding power that rivals or surpasses anything else on Nirn. The final secret. The last mystery is the one we never solve. Throughout Skyrim, hints exist of something larger, connections between events that suggest master plan, references to they and them without clear antecedents, a sense that someone is watching, orchestrating. Is it the Thalmor, the Daedric princes, the Godhead dreaming reality? Or is it simpler, the developers, creators who built this world, leaving their fingerprints in quest design and dialogue, reminding players that every mystery exists because someone wrote it, that behind every secret is an artist who decided what to reveal and what to hide. The greatest mystery of Skyrim isn't any particular unanswered question, but the nature of agency itself, whether characters have free will, or are puppets following scripts, whether the Dragonborn is hero or player character, whether destiny and prophecy are real within the fiction, or just mechanisms to drive gameplay forward. We ask what secrets Skyrim holds, but perhaps the secret is simpler. It's a game crafted by humans, and every mystery exists because someone chose to create it, meaning the ultimate answer to every unanswered question is because the developers decided, which is simultaneously the most mundane and most profound truth, that behind the gods and dragons and ancient prophecies is just people making art, and the mystery is why that art feels so real, why we care about fictional mysteries as if they matter, why Skyrim's secrets haunt us like actual unsolved crimes, when we know none of it exists beyond code and imagination.